are you taking the ACT soon and wondering what can I do to perform more awesomely on the ACT English section? If so, this video is for you. Today we're going to be talking about 3 must-know grammar tips for the ACT English section. Before we get started, I recommend that everybody subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check out SupertutorTV.com. If you head there, you will find that we have an awesome video prep series, comprehensive video prep series for the ACT. Go check it out. It's like sitting across the desk from me, but a lot cheaper than private tutoring, so go check it out. And without further ado, so in particular today, I'm going to be talking about punctuation, so let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is do not confuse in a positive phrase with a title, okay? And some of you might be going, well, what the heck is she talking about? I have no idea what she means. And what this is essentially is this is a comma error. If you're somebody who makes comma errors, oh my goodness, you are not alone. So many of my students, one of the biggest things that they have trouble with is commas. Common comma error, appositive phrases. Commas should be used for appositive phrases, but the appositive must be removable. Okay, so let's talk about what the heck is an appositive phrase. Some of you are sitting there going, what is this woman talking about? I don't know what an appositive is. Well, an appositive is a noun phrase. If I say, for instance, my mom, the lady in the hat, is here, okay? All of this is an appositive phrase. This is a less specific version of this more specific version of a noun. Do you guys get what I'm saying? My mom is a noun. I only have one mom. So this is like my mom. That's like very specific, okay? And then she is also the lady in the hat. This describes her in some way. But this could be removed and she's still my mom, and this is still very clear who she is, right? So I could have the more specific version potentially and get rid of this version, and that's fine. The reason I know I can get rid of this is that this is sandwiched here with what I call a comma sandwich, right? If you have a comma on one side, a comma on the other side, I call that a comma sandwich. It's in that comma sandwich. That means we could take it out. It's a non-essential phrase. And that's how the appositive works. Now, here's some tips on appositives. It's very important that the piece that you are removing, or the piece that's sandwiched between the commas, one, that it comes second. The sandwich always has to come second. You can't put it first. The removable part has to come second, not first. And the other thing is it has to be less important than this one. This one has to stand on its own. If this doesn't stand on its own, you need to reverse these, and this one needs to be over here, and this one needs to be the removable one, okay? So that's important to know. But this is the appositive mistake that I see people make, because people think, oh, when I have a noun that swaps for another noun, I sandwich one of them in commas. But sometimes what they're actually looking at is a title and not an appositive. So my rule is, if the is missing, don't use commas. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you some examples. In that fateful session, this is just an introductory phrase. That's where that comma comes from, if you're wondering, okay? Then we have President Abraham Lincoln advised Congress to vote its conscience. Here's the issue with this, people. Do you see how there's a comma here? You see how there's a comma here? That means President Lincoln is removable. I can say, bye-bye, President Lincoln. And then what I get is President advised Congress. That's weird. Do you see how I would need to say the president? And then it would make sense? Yeah, because president here is acting like a title. A lot of people understand when the title says president, but if we replace it with something like painter Picasso, that sounds kind of weird to your ear. Do you see how that sounds weird? Or painter Pablo Picasso, that sounds a little less weird. But either way, it's right? I could say President Lincoln. What's wrong with saying painter Picasso? It sounds weird, but it's actually okay. And that's how the ACT gets you. They put words as titles that you're not used to seeing as titles because they won't give you president. They'll give you something like painter or some other weird descriptor, okay? So you can see down here in this correct version at the bottom, in that fateful session, President Abraham Lincoln advised Congress to vote its conscience. You guys will agree with me that this sounds totally fine, and this is just a title, right? Well, my point to you is that title doesn't have to be president. It could be a lot of other things, and then you don't need this weird comma sandwich, because the truth is I can't get rid of Abraham Lincoln very easily and have this make sense, and I can't say painter, la la la, that sounds really weird. We would say the painter or a painter. We put an article in front of it, right? So that's a really common mistake that I see students make. So don't do that. And then the other way that we could fix it is we could put a "the" in here. And I actually like this version better, the title version, if it's available, because I think here it's implying that Abraham Lincoln's removable. This would be acceptable so long as somewhere else in the paragraph it is clear that it's Lincoln. And then this isn't as necessary, it's just being extra specific. But if we say "the president advised Congress," you can see how that reads just fine if we remove this part in our comma sandwich. So that's generally the rule. If things are sandwiched in commas and the commas are motivated by that sandwich or that phrase that becomes removable, you have to make sure that that is removable and everything makes sense without it. And if it doesn't, if it's missing a "the" or something else is wonky, be careful. And then my other tip is that sometimes what you think is an appositive is actually just a title, so be careful about that. So that's my first grammar tip. I hope you guys like that. Our next error that I want to talk about is comma splice errors. This one's a super common mistake, even though I feel like a lot of my students know it. And that's the idea that commas should not be used to connect two independent clauses. What do I mean by independent clauses? Well, those are segments that could stand alone as a sentence. They have a subject and a verb. And here is the moral of the story. A lot of times when you're on the ACT, you guys get into this habit of just trusting your ears. You're just like reading the sentence and saying, does that sound okay? Does that sound okay? Does that sound okay? And that's sort of all you're doing as you go through it. And if that's the way that you're approaching this test, you could really benefit from studying, because then this becomes a process not of just trusting your ears, but trusting the rules. However, if you don't know the rules, well, it's really hard to trust the rules, right? So you've got to learn all the rules, and yes, that takes time, but if you want to up your score, if you want to really raise the bar on this test, you're going to have to move beyond just knowing what sounds right. So here we have some like potatoes, others like tomatoes. It sounds really like even and like a rhyme, and I could sing it almost. But the problem is that some is actually a subject and like is a verb. And you see, I could say some like potatoes, period. That's perfectly fine as a sentence. Others like tomatoes. That's perfectly fine as a sentence too. So I can't join it with a comma. That makes it wrong, okay? Instead, what I need is I could use something like a semicolon. I could also use a period and a capital letter. Either of those would work, or I could totally rearrange the sentence in some way or do something different to correct this error. Okay, in any case, you cannot glue two sentences together with a comma. Remember, don't just trust your ears, trust the rules. And if you need more of those rules, again, I go through a bunch more of these rules in our ACT prep series at SupertutorTV.com. Next tip, my third and final grammar must-know tip of the day is the semicolon. And here is the idea of semicolons, okay? We use semicolons only in two ways in the whole universe. First, to separate two independent clauses in one sentence, okay? 98% of semicolon use falls into the category of separating two independent clauses. And then we also use it to avoid comma confusion if we're separating items in a list. And I'm not really going to talk about this one today. I'm going to talk about this today because this is basically 98% of the time, this is the only way you're using semicolons, okay? And here's the idea. When you separate two independent clauses, including those separated by a conjunctive adverb or an adverb phrase, you can do so with a semicolon, but basically any other place that you put a semicolon, it's wrong. A semicolon cannot just randomly be used as a comma. Yes, there is one tiny exception, which like 2% of the time is true. And again, I'm not going to totally get into that right now. But my point to you is 98% of the time, if you see a semicolon, you better sure have two independent clauses snugging themselves together, okay? Because otherwise, that semicolon, it's like not cool. You can't just throw semicolons everywhere. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see students make is they think a semicolon can kind of go wherever they want it to go. And that is not the case. Really strict rules on semicolons. What comes before it and what comes after it has to be an independent clause, period. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Tom's dog was perhaps more composed and elegant than mine. Semicolon, however, this is an adverb, people, not a conjunction, comma, my dog was stronger and faster than his dog would ever be. So this is my dog, subject was verb, right? Than his dog would ever be. So then creates a comparison, and then we have another subject and a verb phrase of sorts. And then up here we have Tom's dog subject and was is our verb. So you see subject verb, blah, blah, blah. However, subject verb, and in between it we have a semicolon, voila, okay? Then we have my sister is waiting for my parents to decide where we will go on our vacation this summer. My sister is, Wade is, la 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 la. And then we have where, so this is a dependent marker. And then we have we will, subject, verb. Then we have in the meantime, she, subject, is, spending her free time, blah, 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 right? Subject, verb, dependent clause, semicolon, right? Because this is like a complete sentence. And then we have phrase, subject, verb, okay? In the meantime is just an adverb phrase. It is not a conjunction. You can't just put comma and make it all glue together. I broke my leg last time I played baseball, semicolon. Nevertheless, I still love the sport and will continue to participate in it. Nevertheless, adverb, people, it's not a conjunction. Whenever you have like a phrase and then you like put a comma after it, it's usually an adverb and not a conjunction, so that's just a good quick tip. But you can see how here we're linking this with a semicolon. I broke, subject, verb. The last time, there's an omitted that here, which creates a dependent clause, and then this is subject, verb, right? And then we have I, subject, and then love, verb. Okay, so we have subject, verb, omitted that, subject, verb, then we have semicolon, then we have adverb, subject, verb, okay? And then we have compound verb. The point is, semicolons connect complete sentences, people. Do not ever use them in other places. It's not cool. I hope you liked this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Again, if you are hungry for more tips, these are 3 tips. I have tips upon tips in our prep series. If you want more, go check it out, SupertutorTV.com. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to our channel. Go to our website, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe, and subscribe to our mailing list if you want to keep up to date on everything we're doing here at SupertutorTV.com. If we've got any updates, if we have any new offerings or books or programs or things like that, that's the place where we will be sharing them. So go check it out. And I will see all of you guys next time on Super Tutor TV. Good luck on your ACT. I hope it goes well.